All right, Akim, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rokah Kwadash, that honors the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Aqua after me listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Rokwai. I'm back in here with another quick and Lord's will as always. Yahweh Rataza, Yahweh willing, an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I just wanted to go through this word called meekness. And, I was just going through it into the definition and, through a couple of experiences I went through recently. I just wanted to bring out this particular lesson in hopes that it will be edifying, right? So let's get the word. What does it mean? What does it mean to be meek? What does that entail, right? So head in the etymology. Just bear with me. And so here it says meekness, meek. In the etymology, it says gentle or mild of temper, forbearing under injury or annoyance, humbling, unassuming. It says modest, soft, pliant, gentle, right? Humility. And I guess the point I really want to touch on is the point of here it says submissive, obedient, docile. Some of the key words I really wanted to touch on is essentially I guess humility was one of the ones I really wanted to touch on because I was reflecting on a couple experiences recently that I was going through, and it was just a way for me to understand that the Lord was really teaching me the importance of meekness, right? The importance of humility to balance out, regardless of how many precepts you may know. It's good to know more precepts and so on and so forth, but regardless of how much wisdom and understanding and that we acquire, right, is to always remember these particular, I guess you can call this like a fruit of the spirit essentially, right? So as a matter of fact, let me get two precepts, and let me just get two precepts. I didn't have this one on the list, but this one just came into my mind, right? Because I mentioned, essentially how many precepts we may know and how much of knowledge that we may acquire, right? So I believe it's First Corinthians. Let me just... this is First Corinthians 8 verse 1, and it says, "Now as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth." Right? In the NLT it says, "Now regarding your question about food that has been offered to idols, we know that we all have knowledge about this issue. But while knowledge makes us feel important, it is love that strengthens the church," right? So it's just to actually essentially what it's doing. It's because like for me, I'm not like the type of person where I'm not an elder. I'm not like an elder. I'm not an apostle. I'm not a bishop or whatever like this. I'm just a regular guy. The point is, like, for me personally, I like a lot of books. I like to go into a lot of history and so on and so forth. But it made me realize, and also on the flip side, the Lord would also put us, even myself included, put us in situations where you're forced to essentially practice humility, right, and exemplify Yahweh Shai in these particular situations, right? And I want to clear that up. I clear up that comment, towards the end of this lesson, right? So just bear with me on this. But the point really is that, as this journey, as you go along, further in understanding, and learning more, in this truth, in this ministry, is that, we learn, like the breakdowns, and you understand the prophecies, you understand the importance of righteousness, so on and so forth. These things are important, but what I'm really trying to touch on for this lesson are these specific, like, simple fruits of the Spirit, right? That we want the Lord essentially to remember these particular things, in times to come, right? We want to be able to be like a respectable sacrifice, a sweet smelling sacrifice, right? Not a corrupt sacrifice, like in the spirit of Cain, right? So verse 2, it says in the NLT, anyone who claims to know all the answers doesn't really know very much, right? So, it's very essentially very tough to talk to somebody who, believes they know everything, right? The second precept I actually wanted to get, and that's really just concerning this point I just made. Okay, Zephaniah 2 and 3, it says, seek ye the Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment, seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger, right? So, as we look at, the current events that are occurring in this particular world, we see, the love of many are waxing cold. We learn, we see what's going on in the so-called Holy Land. We see what's going on, just, in the world in general, right? You see the prophecies being put forth. You see, the WEF pushing its agenda, these elites pushing their agenda. Essentially what we're witnessing is all these prophecies unfolding, but at the same time, essentially what the Lord is doing is he's bringing his anger, right? And especially upon our people as well. So we know essentially, so knowing all this, we want the Lord to essentially cover us in these times to come, right? Remember us in these times to come, not forget us. Essentially, you don't want to be like a woman without a covering, right? So that's really the point here. So what I want to do right now, I want to jump to another point I just made in regards to, it's like, I'll just use myself as an example, because I like to read a lot of books, going into the history, going into the Dark Ages, and so on and so forth. I recently had taken a little step back a bit, but I was just thinking about a lot of these virtues that Yahushua exemplified, and and realizing the Lord would put us in particular situations where you kind of essentially you're forced to be in subjection to those particular situations. And then if you're spiritual, you can realize that it's really for your own benefit, because it's kind of like the Lord's kind of taking some gunk out of your system, right, and added in some virtue, essentially, right? So let's get 1 Corinthians, right? Because and this could pertain to, like, different situations, because I don't really like using myself as an example, but I that's the best way I can really describe it, is like, okay, if you're an individual who has your folks around you, or someone who's pleased to dwell with you, but whether it's a woman or so, they're pleased to dwell with you, or so on and so forth, right? You'll probably be in different situations where you actually have to help certain people and actually exemplify these particular virtues, right? So this is 1 Corinthians 13, verse 1, and it says, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not charity, I am become as sounding brass and a tinkling cymbal. Verse 2, it says, and though I have the gift of all prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so I could remove mountains, and have not charity, I am nothing, right? So you see, this is what Paul is describing. I could have all these different attributes. I could understand Daniel 7, man. I could go into all these different, top-notch breakdowns, man. I could break down Revelation 13, man. And I could know all these particular things. But, if I'm a person that, is not charitable, then what am I? I'm nothing, right? A good example of this is what's that guy's name? Nabal. When you go through the story with David and Nabal and Abigail, Nabal had Abigail was the essentially Nabal was the husband of Abigail before David acquired Abigail, if you go back into the story, right? And just a long story short, Nabal had lots of substance, had lots of, riches, so on and so forth. And, in a time where David needed help, he didn't help him, right? So that was an opportunity to do good to the godly man, and he didn't do it. He didn't take advantage of it. He didn't take advantage of that opportunity to actually exemplify these particular virtues that I'm discussing right now. So, I want to read verse 3. It says, and though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profit me nothing. Charity suffereth long, and is kind. Charity envieth not. And I recently just did a lesson on envy as well. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. And one of the reasons I'm bringing this out, because from my experience, I've recently learned that the Lord will put you in particular situations to exemplify these particular traits, exemplify these particular virtues, right? And meekness is just one of them too, because I'll just use myself as an example. I don't really like doing that, but just so you can understand, like I live primarily with my folks, and they're not at the age where they're able to do certain things for themselves all the time. So it requires me to help, essentially be obedient to whatever it is that they might need help with, right? I'm not going to be a demon and be difficult, essentially, and be a lion in my house, so to speak, right? That's really the point I'm really trying to get to here, right? And this can also play out in other facets. I'm not sure what other brothers' different lots are, right? But I'm just using myself as an example, right? You might have to deal with this particular situation with other brothers, dealing with other brothers, so to speak, that are amongst you, right? So these are just different ways and different avenues the Lord could put you in these particular situations to essentially exemplify these different virtues. Meekness, humility, is one of them, right? Let me get two more precepts. Well, a precept and an account, and then I'll just wrap it up here. Just bear with me on this. Let's see. Just bear with me. Okay, 2 Peter 1 verse 5. It says, and beside this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and to your virtue knowledge, to knowledge temperance, and to and to temperance patience, and to patience godliness, and to godliness brotherly kindness, and brotherly kindness charity. So going back to these different virtues, right? And what I really like about this particular this section of the chapter is because, you know, like I've seen, if your brothers have ever noticed a lot of these I'm going to use these manosphere videos where they talk about, you know, men need to, you know, get their money up, men need to essentially get their, get in shape, right? You know, there's nothing wrong with getting in shape and, you know, I guess making some more money if you can. One of the things I never really fully liked about a lot of these manosphere guys, you know, if I'm being completely honest, is the fact that they always talk about essentially the outward appearance. You know, there was always a heavy focus on, you know, money and your appearance and finances and so on and so forth, right? There was never a conversation about, like, when you listen to these, like, I'll just use examples like Fresh and Fit. You know, that's one podcast. I used to watch that a lot, like, in, you know, before I was in the truth, even a little bit after. You know, when you watch a lot of these guys, you know, and you see the way they behave, see the way they conduct themselves, you know, these guys are very, very shady. A lot of these guys are very, very shady, right? First, there is no healthy fear of the Lord in them. So because they don't have that as a cornerstone, they don't exemplify these particular virtues, right? But to circling back to the point, you know, a lot of these guys talk about these particular few things. You gotta you need to be a millionaire. You need to, wear, get some nice suits. You need to, I don't know, just a bunch of stuff that's, essentially superficial, right? But one of the things I've noticed is they never speak about these particular virtues that I'm reading right here, right? They never spoke about, okay, I know integrity is not listed here, but I'm just using integrity as an example. Integrity, patience, diligence, temperance, brotherly kindness. These particular things are not discussed about. These are virtues that they don't touch upon, right? And this is part of conduct. This is part of our culture, right? As a people, and our people, not only have they lost the heritage portion, as a people we've lost conduct. We don't know how to conduct ourselves, right? Like scriptures talk about, we have an evil eye towards our brethren, so to speak. Verse 8, it says, for if these things be in you and abound, they make you, and ye shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of the Lord Yahushai Hamashiach. Right? So, these are very, very important traits, right? Very, very, very important traits. And you see how Yahushai exemplified these particular things, right? So I want to get one account and I'll wrap it up. I don't want to make the lesson too long, but hopefully this is all, piecing together and making sense. So let's get John. Okay, so this is John chapter 13, verse 4. I want to start here just to establish some context and then jump down a little bit. So it says, so he got up from the table, Yahushai, took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, and poured water into a basin, and then began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around him. Right, so I want to jump down to verse 12. Okay, so it says, John chapter 13, verse 12, it says, after washing their feet, he put on his robe, again, I'm reading the NLT, by the way, and sat down and asked, Yahushua speaking, do you understand what I was doing? Verse 13, you call me teacher, you call me Lord, and you are right, because that's what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. It says, verse 15, I have given you an example to follow. Right, so this is what Yahushua is doing, right? He's laying out the foundation of how, the disciples at the time eventually become apostles, how to conduct themselves, right, after he was crucified. Verse 15, it says, I'll just read verse 15 again, and it says, I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. Verse 16, I tell you the truth, slaves are not greater than their master, nor is the messenger more important than one who sends the message. Now that you know these things, Yahweh will bless you for doing them, right? And that's what we want. We want to get we want to cash in as many blessings as we can, as we have this this grace period, Yahushua. And this is just one of the examples I just wanted to bring out, right? In regards to that humility, because imagine actually physically washing one of your brother's feet, right? But when you could also equate that to things, because you might be in a particular situation where you're essentially in subjection into doing something that is, I don't want to say humiliating, but it puts you in a position of serving another person, right? Whatever facet that might be in your life, wherever that might be. So I don't know, I just give a couple examples of some of the things I personally experienced, and you can probably be in that particular situation as well, right? But like the scriptures say in Hebrews, this can also be it's going to also be an opportunity to yield some peaceable fruit of righteousness, right? So I will leave it I think I'll just end it off here, but hopefully, sincerely hoping that this lesson was edifying. And I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth. Till next time, I say Shalom.